Hello, everybody, and welcome to Commodity Culture, where we break down the commodity space for both new and experienced investors. My name is Jesse Day. Before we get started, standard disclaimer, nothing here is investment advice. Do your own due diligence. And today's guest is the CEO of Kraken Energy, a company advancing its portfolio of high-grade uranium properties in the United States. It's Mr. Matthew Schwab. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Jesse. It was great to chat with you.
Absolutely. And I want to start with a broad overview of the uranium sector at present because it's been a while since we last talked. We've seen quite a run up in the spot price to a level where it's now the highest it's been in over a decade. We were speaking off camera before starting the interview. You said a lot of people are excited, but not necessarily some investors. We obviously have seen a pullback in the equities after quite a run up. So I'm just wondering what your broad view of the sector is at the moment. Do you anticipate further upside to come? And what do you see as the main drivers for the uranium price at present?
It has been a long delay here, and I'm really excited about what we've been seeing more recently. And I really do think that this is only the beginning, Jesse. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one making that assumption right now. It's been a long 12 years of recession in the uranium market, and we're really long overdue for the world to realize the importance of uranium's role in both energy security and the transition away from reliance on hydrocarbons. And those 2 points are really my thoughts on the drivers behind the increased sentiment and the climbing spot price that we're seeing for the commodity. Nations around the world are continually pushing for this transition to a green energy future. And without getting into the details, it's pretty easy to see that the only feasible option is nuclear energy. I actually read a quote not too long ago I really liked, and I think it was, if you can't put sunshine and wind in your pocket, it's not fuel. And I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think uranium is the answer. It's something that pleases both the green agenda and the need for sustainable baseload energy. So completely agree with you there. I wanted to shift now to the bifurcation that seems to be going on when it comes to geopolitics and, as a consequence, energy supply, including uranium. If we look at Kazakhstan alone, they provide around 46% of global uranium supply, which is mind-boggling. And with their cooperation with Russia's Rosatom, along with China, a huge amount of that supply, if not potentially all of it, could be staying in the East. So I was wondering what your thoughts are there.
Well, we've been seeing this build up for a while now, Jesse, and the effects are finally starting to be noticed in the market. China was kind of ahead of everybody in locking up long-term supply for their ever-growing fleet of nuclear reactors, and now Russia is supporting that effort as well as their own interests. And of course, the ongoing conflict overseas only exacerbates the issue, especially when it comes to supplying allies of the Ukraine like the United States. So I think that we're seeing is going to be a continued building of the pressure where uranium supply is just going to get increasingly difficult to secure.
Yeah, I would agree with you there as well. And speaking of uranium supply becoming increasingly difficult to secure, we have seen a coup in Niger that has placed around 4% of global uranium supply at risk. That doesn't seem like a large number, but it actually does have an impact. Does this put a spotlight on the importance of jurisdiction when it comes to mining uranium and also investing in uranium?
Absolutely. Jurisdiction is a key element when considering investment in any commodity. But when we're looking at a strategic or critical commodity such as uranium, it just increases the risk of supply issues that can affect the market and the economy on a larger scale. That 4% doesn't sound like a big number, but I think that roughly 25% of the uranium supply for the European Union has been historically sourced from Niger. So that lends some backing to the previous parts of this conversation where now, European countries will be more aggressively looking to secure uranium in an already tightening supply chain elsewhere around the world.
Now, when it comes to the US specifically, Russia actually supplies around 20% of US demand. Once again, a huge number. And the US has no mines at present currently producing uranium in any meaningful quantity. So obviously, more domestic production is needed. How do you think that is best accomplished?
Well, I honestly think that's simple, Jesse, and it's just increased investment in uranium across the board. But besides that, there are other avenues, and I think that some ways to achieve that are aggressive incentives and potentially even policy changes that are going to be needed at the federal level in many countries, especially the United States, to push forward exploration and development far more quickly. More quickly meaning that projects would typically advance a lot slower without that added drive and support.
Now, I'd like to get your take as well on the small modular reactor industry. How far out do you think we are from having this technology widely implemented, and how could it affect uranium demand?
Well, this is something that a lot of people are talking about, and they have been for some time now. And I think that the push for SMRs is really a great step forward to help out in achieving more accessible and reliable energy around the world. SMRs are more easily deployable, they require less capital costs, they have a smaller footprint, and they can be built in a fraction of the time. I don't think it's very far out to having these actually deployed, especially in developed countries around the world. But the caveat to that is that as more of these are built, it will only increase the demand for uranium and continue to put pressure on a growing supply deficit.
I want to get your thoughts on this quote from Katusa Research. It's a bit of a long one, so bear with me. But they said every nuclear plant owner, operator, and developer in the world is beginning to realize that they need to buy uranium before there's none to buy. That transforms this from a security of supply issue into a major energy security issue. The last country to try to procure uranium might get caught without their largest source of power. So, the biggest nuclear powers in the world, France, the US, Russia, and China, are taking ruthless steps to ensure uranium access for their nuclear fleets. Are you seeing this kind of scramble for uranium yet on your end? And with SPUT and other funds sucking up pounds, could there come a time where there's nothing available for utilities who didn't act in advance to secure supply?
I think that's a very accurate statement. And honestly, I think that we're moving very quickly towards that point where utilities and countries around the world, they're just going to be met with that reality where there is just not enough uranium supply to meet their needs. So anyone who understands the industry has known for a while that this has been coming for a long time. But the part of the quote there is very accurate in stating that most of the world is just beginning to realize that this is the case. But it is drastic, it is important to address, and the only way to ensure energy security is to aggressively move projects forward to increase production around the world.
Yeah, and that's a great pivot to discussing Kraken Energy. As mentioned at the top of the show, we had you on a while back. I know there's been a lot happening since then. You are well positioned being in the US. So I think you could be part of that puzzle when it comes to solving the domestic supply issue. So before we dive into the further details, maybe for those unfamiliar, if you could give us an overview of the company.
Sure, Jesse. For anybody out there who isn't acquainted with our company, Kraken Energy is a junior uranium exploration and development company, and we are focused solely on the U.S. market and the U.S. assets for the time being. What we're doing is using an approach that's centered on maximizing value and minimizing risk by assembling a portfolio of high-grade brownfield uranium assets with existing infrastructure, which we really hope will allow us to fast-track these projects to being in a production-ready state.
And you have 3 projects in Nevada and 1 in Utah. So could you walk us through those projects and any highlights you think investors should be aware of?
Absolutely, I can. As I mentioned, we focus on acquiring projects that fit a certain set of criteria. So that being said, 3 of our projects are past producers with an average historic production grade of up to 0.25% U3O8. The important point of that being that all of these projects were shut down prematurely with non-compliant resources still in the ground and additional exploration potential across the properties. Just looking at our 2 flagship properties, Apex and Harts Point, Apex was the largest past producer of uranium in the state of Nevada back in the 1950s, and the current project covers over 6,000 hectares with a confirmed extent of surface mineralization that covers over 14.5 kilometers in length with samples up to 6% U3O8. Harts Point is the newest addition to the company and is centered in the middle of the Colorado Plateau, which produced over 590 million pounds of uranium since the 1950s. Besides that, it's pretty exciting because it's only 30 kilometers to the west of Lisbon Valley, which produced 80 million pounds of uranium up until 1989 at an average grade of 0.3% U3O8. And the property is only 60 kilometers north by road of the White Mesa Uranium Mill, which is the only operating conventional uranium mill in the United States. Now, even on top of that, Harts Point is a direct geological analog of Lisbon Valley and has 3 historic oil wells showing off-scale radioactivity in the formation of interest, the Shinle Sandstone. So I guess wrapping that up, we have a great base of assets right now, and we're aggressively moving forward with them as concurrently as possible.
And what are the plans for the rest of 2023 into 2024? And when it comes to the potential of eventually having producing mines, obviously these are past producing. mines that you have your hands on right now, which is an excellent advantage. Are there plans on when production could potentially occur at this point?
Well, that's a little bit off into the future right now. Immediately right now, we're focused on bringing the reserves into compliant state and moving through feasibility on our projects. So right now, for the remainder of 2023, we plan to execute maiden drilling programs on both of our flagships, Harts Point and Apex, in Utah and Nevada. Both of these are very exciting, and our team really can't wait to start seeing core come out of the ground. But moving into 2024, we're planning a phase 2 drilling program at Garfield Hills. We wrapped up the maiden program earlier this year in March. We plan additional drilling at Apex, and then a maiden drill program at our fourth property, Huber Hills. So all in, yeah, production is a little ways down the road, but it is going to be a very busy and exciting year for our company.
And give us some more details on the infrastructure in place at these jurisdictions. You touched on it. Infrastructure, obviously, very important. What are some highlights there you could talk about?
Well, being brownfields projects, as I mentioned, part of the criteria for selecting our properties, all four of our properties have road access to and throughout the project areas. And despite being in the deserts of Nevada and Utah, all four have access to water and electricity. And of all four of the projects, the closest communities range between 2.5 to 49 kilometers away by road. And all of those serve as excellent operational bases to conduct our exploration as we move forward. And we really see that the infrastructure that we do have in place is going to help us move more aggressively through exploration, feasibility, and get these projects to a production ready state.
I wanted to get your thoughts on the merger we've seen recently between IsoEnergy and Consolidated Uranium. So firstly, what are your thoughts on the merger? And is Kraken also open to a potential merger in the future if the right circumstances present themselves?
Well, I'll be honest, Jesse. It was a bit unexpected, in my opinion. We all know that M&A activity really heats up in a bull commodity cycle, but I wouldn't have expected two companies of their size who operate in completely different jurisdictions to complete a transaction like that. I do understand the underlying motive, though, to compete with other mid-cap uranium companies in this space, and I really do wish them the best of luck. I think it's a good move. But regarding Kraken, I think I'll just leave it at saying that we're really looking forward to the next year as we advance our projects and build value for our company and shareholders. But personally, I'm quite opportunistic, and I'm always open to discussing new avenues for the business.
Nice. Well, it's been an awesome conversation. Before I do let you go, I'm wondering, is there any final words you want to share either on the uranium industry or on Kraken Energy before I let you go?
Well, thanks again for having me, Jesse. It's always great. As for parting words, I am very optimistic right now, and I'm excited to see what happens in the coming year as we see this bull uranium market really get some legs. And I think the Kraken Energy is very well situated. There really couldn't be a better time than now or a better place than the United States to be a uranium exploration and development company. So I guess for anyone out there looking to find out more about Kraken Energy and our company, you can visit our website or the various social media platforms that we use, including Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook. And of course, we trade on the CSE as UUSA and the OTCQB as UUSAF.
Great. Well, I'll put links below to both the Kraken Energy website and social media for anybody who wants to check it out. I've actually heard the Kraken Energy name come up quite a bit recently when speaking to investors. I really respect a few people on this show, so I think the company's definitely worth following. And thank you once again, Matt, for joining us and sharing your knowledge with the audience.
Absolutely. I look forward to the next time we talk.
Commodity Culture is a series on commodities and natural resources. If you would like to see more, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're always up to date with the latest episodes.